Hi, I'm Paul Martinelli, and I am with my good friend Nick Vujicic. And we are here discussing the book Think and Grow Rich. And Nick, thank you so much for agreeing to share some of your thoughts on these key principles that Napoleon Hill brings out in the book. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. I think there's so much more to the book. You know, when you look at the title, Think and Grow Rich, it's not like a get rich quick thing at all. It's understanding these principles that really apply in every area of your life. You know, just it's amazing just to see people who never reach their full potential or feel fulfilled in their life until they come to these basic principles of understanding value and happiness and a more rounded sort of philosophy of life.
You know, it's so right, because the book is not Think and Grow Rich quick.
Yeah.
And it's not even Think and Grow Rich in money, because what good is it to be wealthy financially and to be void spiritually?
That's what I talk about all the time.
Yeah. Well, as Napoleon Hill wrote in the book, there's key principles. One, when I first started to read the book, was persistence. And I started to read that chapter first. The person who handed me this book 25 years ago made me read the chapter on persistence every day for 14 days.
Wow.
Because he said, if you don't have persistence, you won't get through the rest of the book. So let's just talk about persistence in your life. My goodness, it's for you to be able to be doing what you do. You travel all over the world. How many people will you speak to in a year?
Goodness. It's different. Next year we're doing 5 big meetings where there will be hopefully 1 million people in each meeting. But then again, the last 10 years of speaking has totaled 5 million. So on average, we speak probably within our ministry and talks about 200 times a year. Yeah.
200 times a year.
200 times a year.
And to be able to have developed and grown to be a speaker, I mean, I would imagine that the first, you tell a great story of the first time you spoke, you had to pay your brother your whole fee to get there, and you get there, it was like 10 people for 5 minutes or something.
Right.
And now you have millions of people who follow you on Facebook, YouTube. I don't know how many millions of hits.
We have a lot of hits, and we're just developing our channel, because all that was from people just taking stuff and putting it up just out of passion, and you know, they want to share that message of hope. So it's been an incredible journey. It was definitely difficult at the beginning because I didn't have any invitations to speak, so it was hard. We all start at zero, right?
Yeah.
And being persistent, you know, is so key for me in building the foundation of success on whatever it is for you. But if you don't continue to keep on trying, then you'll never get to where you hope to get to one day. If you don't take another step today, it's another step another day. Well, why did you waste time? Why don't you step out and, well, I'm scared. What are they going to say? And you know, the fear of failing, the fear of success. What if it actually is successful? Oh no. And so all these things are a process that we need to think through and grow through. But persistence is something that I first learned from my parents. You know, when I tried something and I failed, try again. You know, you don't know what you can achieve until you try it. And look at Thomas Edison, how many times he was persistent. And you know, I have to give a lot of credit to my parents being persistent and intentional in planting seeds of encouragement, of faith, love, and hope in my life to make me who I am today. So whether that's in family or home or relationships, to promotional things or entrepreneurial things, persistence is key, because then the moment you stop, the moment it stops growing.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
One of the other principles in the book, and he calls it a habit, is decision making. In the book, as you know, he says that successful people come to decisions very quickly, and they seldom, if ever, change them. You are asked to speak and asked to do things for people all the time, and you because of just the time limits, you have to make decisions. How did you develop your own kind of winning strategy to be able to make decisions as quick as you do? Because I know you and I oftentimes will sit down and we mastermind, which is another principle in the book, and we'll be thinking, and I'm amazed at how fast you will commit to something and say yes, and then actually follow through with it. Because it's one thing to make a decision, but then, you know, decision not backed by action isn't a decision at all. Will you speak to that?
It's so good. I could write a whole book on just that, because it's so important. You know, there are times where you see many people have their own principles of saying yes and they're not following through, and that's the worst thing you can do. I'd rather be the person who takes a couple years to say yes to something but follow through in the end. I'm talking from a CEO perspective, right?
Sure.
When you have to make decisions quick and fast, growing a business and all these sorts of things. Obviously, I have a team of people around me, and it's not their job to help. I don't know, I can't explain it perfectly, but I know I'm a speaker. But I will say that sometimes I expected others to share the vision exactly how I see it, and I felt like, oh, if they don't see it the way I see it, well then maybe I'm wrong. Sometimes they're just like, Nick, just give us the orders and we'll run with it. Let's go. It's the vision of the entire company. We're all different parts of the body, right, of the organization. And what I realized was a weakness of mine was that I was second guessing what my gut was telling me. And so many times we should have just gone with the gut feeling, yes or no. And you don't understand, I'm a Vujicic, all right? And in our family, we come up with 65 different options in how you can do something. And we talk through all the options before we say yes. And I've learned to snap out of that, because that's just something that you have to grow through and press forward through. And look, the obsession of making the right decision. And then you categorize it, well, what's the best decision? And oh my goodness, you might as well be better at going forward in it, and while you're moving forward, tweak it or just do something. I'm not saying that that's a formula, but I've learned how to categorize and be wise and discerning with what kind of decisions they are, and run with it, or think about it, or all those sorts of things. But the worst thing that I have left behind, which is a good thing to leave behind, is never making a decision. Just make a decision, grow from it. Don't and ah about it too long, because you got to strike it while it's hot. And then don't let the bad decisions that you made terrorize you for the rest of your life.
That's so true.
Like we let our past sort of determine our future. Well, who does that? We let that happen. So I know there's a couple keys that I feel really turned on those success rates on our growth. I mean, to see where we're at, I'm 31 years old. And there was a lot of decisions to make. But the key thing there is to make sure that you have also a wise counsel around you, to make sure that we are going focused, one direction, and one step at a time. So,
well, that's one of the principles also in the book is that inner circle. John Maxwell talks of the law of the inner circle. You're talking about masterminding. Let's talk about desire, because desire is in the book. Napoleon Hill says, that your dream can't be a want or wish. Everybody wants or wishes for prosperity or health. He says it has to be a desire. Then he says it has to be a burning desire. Then he says it has to be this all-consuming obsession. It's got to be your purpose in life. It's got to be what it is that you want. And how have you allowed your desire to impact the world? Because you are a voice that I think transcends religious beliefs or political philosophies. I've said this before, that you are a citizen of the world now. How have you allowed your desire to be your fuel, to give you energy? I mean, I've seen you on YouTube and I've seen you on Facebook where you're traveling to 7 different countries like in 10 days, and I don't know how you do it. How has the role of desire been in your life? What has that played?
I didn't have a burning desire or even mediocre desire to be rich or prosperous. I have a desire to remain healthy, and I should, watch what I eat and exercise. But I have a burning desire to be, first of all and foremost, a faithful servant of God. I believe that I was created for a greater purpose, to love and spread a message of hope, love, and faith to the world. And out of that burning desire, things were built around that, and it was fortunately for me in my teenage years that I discovered that burning desire and let that drive me forward. Now, being a family man as well, that burning desire has not, at one bit cooled down. I want to reach the world with the message of hope, but at the same time, I need to make sure that I'm the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, the best business leader I can be around people, and my team leader. To make sure that we all bring the best out of each other, because it's not about, in the end, what goal you reach. My burning desire is to help people find the fulfillment in life, to know that whether you're rich or poor, healthy or sick, that your joy is not determined on your circumstance. So my desire is, number one, to be as hungry as I can for my faith, as hungry as I can to be the best father and husband I can be, and then thirdly, really just let others know that sometimes you don't need a miracle to necessarily be a miracle. And that's a transforming factor for me. And when that drive comes from a pure drive and not a prideful drive, I give all glory and thanks to God for everything I have. It's not about me, but yeah, I had to do something, put faith in action. Yeah. I just want everyone to know that we all can see dreams come true.
That is so good. I love how you share that, your desire started at a younger age and matured over time, but continue to burn. That's really when I think when you're. My friend Scott Fay has a book called Discover Your Sweet Spot. When you're in your sweet spot, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
Let me ask you this. He has a chapter dedicated to faith. Mm-hmm. Martin wrote that we face in the direction of our faith. James Allen writes that we never outperform our own belief, which is our faith. What role has just kind of your faith to not, because you're doing things today that you absolutely do not know how to do. You're taking steps on faith every single day as you're playing a bigger game in the world. How do you do that? How do you make some of the commitments you make some of the decisions you make, and do some of the things you do with the faith without really knowing what's going to happen next? Because I've seen you take the first step into a big journey without knowing any other step. How do you do that?
Well, it's how it was from the beginning, though, because it's how it's always been. It's how it started. It's how it's grown. And I think the moment I step out of that, then I don't feel like I'm going to reach my full potential.
Wow.
Because if you just take steps that are calculated and risks that are fine and easy to take and everything's planned out, I didn't feel like you're ever going to get to where you could have gone if you just took the extra big step. Yeah. But it's been big steps all the way through. I mean, to see us growing as a ministry and as in my speaking career as well, so fast in such little time, it's because I've had the courage to realize that I'm not going to know until I take a step. I'm okay to hurt a little bit. I'm okay to admit that I made the wrong decision. I'd rather take the wrong step, make a wrong decision, than never make a decision at all to try. It just horrifies me, people saying, oh yeah, I want to do that one day, but they never take the step. And I'm like, you're not living. We have been designed to take steps, to take risks sometimes. Look, I'm not saying jump out of a plane like I did. Yeah, I'll never do that again. My knees were shaking like crazy. But if I never took the risks that I took, I wouldn't be where I am. My parents, I mean, look at them raising me up. Yeah. Talk about a journey and a big step of faith. Encouraging me to tell me that, there's a hope and a plan and a future for my life. And they didn't know exactly how we looked, but we together took that step. And they were always there. We're in companies and as a team, and you build up your team like, all right, everyone, we know we're a little scared, but we're in it together. And that's what I like, let's do it. And so when you have the mastermind, you sort of work, okay, this could happen, that could happen. And then we could also say, something may happen that we haven't thought of yet. And that's okay. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid for falling. I look back at my life and I've seen that all the stresses, the anxiety, the depression, the failures, the pitfalls that have happened has made me now who I am today. More wise, more sharp. My team now has seen what's going on. and we say, okay, we got through that. Let's go. Let's keep it one step at a time, you know? And so when we say obstacles and pain and all these sorts of things and failures, the greatest, healthiest thing that I can do in looking forward in how to overcome the next obstacle is remember how big the last obstacle was at that time. Freaking out. What are we gonna do? I don't know. And then we're like, all right, we somehow got through it. Together we'll get through this too. So I want to do something big. You know, I don't want to say, oh, you know, I had a good life, and we want to impact the world, and that's big, and that takes a risk.
Sure. On
so many different levels. So get ready for it. But I want to also say, someone once said, John says it the best. Don't envy what people have or do until you're ready to go through what they've been through.
Yeah.
And that's so true.
Isn't that true?
That's so humbling. And so, you know, I look at so many role models around me and realize any successful person around me that I look at as a role model in any way, shape, or form, they had to go through what they've been through to do what they're doing today.
That's so good. There's a chapter in the book on autosuggestion where he talks about how, you know, we can kind of program our mind through repetition. Affirmation certainly is powerful. And I know as a person of faith that for you it's probably been prayer. How has your relationship and your ability to communicate with God at any time helped you kind of program your own mind to be able to take steps or to tap into the mind of God and be, you know, people say that they get inspired ideas. It's in spirit. It comes from the Latin in spirit. How has your relationship, and particularly your prayerful communication with God, impacted your ability to vision, you know, beyond condition and circumstance?
It's the beginning and end of my existence, and there is no end to an existence with God. It's eternal. It's transforming to the point where your perspective changes to the scale of understanding that no matter what comes at me, if I believe that I'm living in God's strength, which is unlimited, where He is all-knowing, where He is all-gracious and merciful and will carry me when I cannot walk. I mean, when He's on your team, He's not just on my team, He's my Heavenly Father. And I know the love that I have for my son. I mean, when I felt him kick in my wife's womb, I just loved him unconditionally right there and then. He didn't need to earn my love. He didn't need to do anything for me to love him. I just loved him, and I'll always love him. And now I understand how much my dad loves me, you know, and now I have a little bigger taste of how much He unconditionally loves me, that He knew me before the earth began, that I'm wonderfully and fearfully made, that He doesn't forget me, that He's always with me. And if I trust in Him, if I give my broken pieces to God, He can do some amazing miracles. And I hope people see that. That a man without arms and legs can be the hands and feet of God, sharing that love, sharing that faith is just incredible. It's not about my ability, it's all about faith. It's all about believing that whatever I feel like I cannot do, He's doing it. And I know that I can't do anything without Him. So prayer is at the beginning of my day, during my day, and the end of my day, every day. So prayer is everything to me.
Do you pray? You pray about everything.
I do pray literally nearly about, I mean, I'm not going to pray about what am I going to eat, but I do pray for the food that I eat. You know, even though it should be sanitized, and you know, what do you mean you're praying for? You know, or it's in every, it's woven in, it's what I do. You know, it's giving thanks to God. It's acknowledging that without Him, I wouldn't have breath of life. Without Him, I wouldn't have the ability to do what we do. And it's when you acknowledge God in every way in your life and ask Him to direct your path, that's when you're trusting in the Lord. And He will direct your paths when you trust in the Lord. And so acknowledging that it's not me who's making this amazing life. I didn't write my own life story, God did. My history is His story to share. And whatever mess we have, I don't know if you've heard this one before, but I've been thinking about it. I'm sure I'm not the first person to think about it this way, but when you look at the word of mess, right? We've all got mess in our life. With some time, message. With every mess that we have, you give some time. It's like, you know, letting wine wait, right? A couple more years. It doesn't taste good at the time. It doesn't feel good at the time. But later on, you can look back and say, yeah, I was depressed. I was going through a lot of difficulty. But now, because of God and how He's taken my broken pieces, He's now made something beautiful that now I can put a message of my mess, and in time and faith and prayer, what a message it is of hope, to know that hope is everything.
Is there a time of day when you pray, when you feel just even more connected, where there's just a stronger spiritual connection? Or do you have a devotional time of day that you do it?
The devotional time that I like to have is in the morning. 95% of my mornings with my wife at my home, where we, if I don't have a meeting that morning,
Sure,
that early, we wake up 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning. We read the Bible, 20 to 45 minutes long, drinking coffee. We are disciplined in that because we know that we need the Word of God. We need God's guidance. We need God's grace to be gracious to others, to think of even forgiving anyone or being. How gracious are we to someone who blocks us off in traffic? We're not that gracious, right? We need God to help us be the light in that dark world. To even pray for others. Not just about me. There are other people who need God and God's help. And so my family, my friends, and my ministry, and my staff, and our board, and our supporters, and we have a long list of people that we know who need God. They just had surgery and this and that, and someone's going through cancer. And we I think underestimate the power of prayer a lot. And so even for ourselves, me and my wife, we know that if we don't start the day right, on that right foot in prayer, it feels like we're going to war with no armor.
Wow.
That's just how it feels.
Yeah, you feel naked on the day, don't you?
The whole day is like on the slant. It's like, oh yeah, we didn't pray properly. It's like, yeah, we pray for the food, but actual prayer time is something that's absolutely important. So the time of day, to me, in the morning is the best. You give
critical.
God your first fruits. This is when you're most fresh, you're most creative, you're most switched on, and after a coffee, of course. That whole combination of Holy Spirit and caffeine is a good one.
An espresso.
Espresso.
I know you're an espresso guy.
I am.
We're filming this in Nick's home, and if you could see what I see, what was one time just a barren hill, you have imagined just the most beautiful
landscaping.
It's incredible. I mean, a palatial retreat. Tell me about the power of imagination in your life, how you've been able to imagine your next steps, your business, even your family.
Yeah. It sounds foolish for anyone to go up to my parents and say, oh, don't worry, your limbless kid, he's going to travel around the world and do more than you've done. In retrospect, my dad and mom, they never thought that, their limbless son would be able to, meet presidents and speak at congresses and speak in crowds as large as we're doing. It's not to say that I've achieved more than them. They are inspiring to me. From where they've come from, I can't imagine their journey without me. Coming from former Yugoslavia, in refugee camps, in escaping communism, is going to Australia, starting with nothing in their life. I mean, I can't imagine that. And that's the amazing thing about imagination. You can't imagine your maybe broken pieces turn into something beautiful. And it's not about you comparing your problems or situation to mine, because maybe you can't understand how this feels, but I can't ever imagine being in a broken home. I think that's worse than having no arms, no legs. You can have arms and legs, but be disabled by fear. Fear of rejection for the rest of your life, fear of being alone. It's a little bit foolish to believe in something you don't see. That's what the Bible says. Faith is foolishness to those who don't believe. Because you're believing and imagining something you can't even describe. What am I going to do in my life? I mean, I thought I'd never get married, never have a job, always be dependent, never independent, never feeling happy. I was bullied at school. That brought me to depression and attempted suicide at age 10. Now to see what has happened, it's only because of what God imagined for me. Thank God that my future wasn't determined on my imagination, because my imagination was limited. And that's when I've opened up my mind to saying, okay, God, I don't know what you have for me, but help me to see what you see. And that's the amazing thing. And when you tap into that creativity, I mean, he created creativity.
Yeah.
For me to now say, okay, God, I have a story, and I've written books, #1 in 7 countries. Now I want to try and get that book out to as many people as possible for those who can't even afford my books in the future. There are many people who can't afford my books.
Sure.
And I think, and I force myself to think, and just spend time in meditation, in being open to ideas that you can't even think of, because my Father is the creator of creativity. So I've been for several years even asking God for concepts in how can we give away my book for free in a way that still makes money. Because I had a greed that I didn't think I had, a pride that I didn't think I had, and a fear that I didn't think I had, that, well, how can I just give away my books for free?
Right.
How's that going to get, you need distribution, you need publishing, you need marketing, and that's a whole machine.
Right.
How can you? Well, it seems impossible to make money from a free book, but I challenge myself to wait, and I feel like we're coming to an idea where we can actually make the same money or more on just ads in a book given away for free to school students who live on food stamps.
Right.
There's got to be a way to spread something that brings hope for free. Out of all things that should be for free,
That should be.
hope.
Yeah.
And so to be able to be agents of hope and be engaged in an army in a way to somehow spread that message to people that I've never met before, that I won't meet face to face, having that team and army who believe and are ready to stop and be challenged to imagine the impossible. That's when the impossible happens.
And so there's this gestation period where you're trusting on faith. So it's the blending of it's not just any one of these. It's prayerfully speaking to God, which is autosuggestion. It's taking steps on faith, and it's allowing God's law of gender or incubation to take place and trusting that. And the idea grows and grows and grows, and
God's will is done. And so maybe not our timing, maybe not our way. And I don't want my plan, I want his plan. And so I just hope that people are inspired to see that I'm not saying everything's possible, but your full potential is there for you to reach. And so maybe we don't know what that is, but just know that sometimes the impossible actually is possible. It's awesome. So dream big and never give up. And I just hope that you continue to push and persevere and be persistent in taking those steps that sometimes are awkward, uncomfortable, and risky to move forward. So
this has been Nick Vujicic and Paul Martinelli. I love you, my friend.
I love you too.
Thank you so much for adding value to the Think and Grow Rich study groups. Thank you. I love you.
You're welcome. And if you want to hear daily of snippets of inspiration, go to youtube.com/Nick Vujicic AIA for Attitude is Altitude.
Say it one more time, but we want to make sure we
Yeah, youtube.com/Nick Vujicic, NickVujicic AIA. I want to daily inspire you to be all that you can be.
And these messages truly are just brilliant, and they match this book perfectly too. So thank you very much.